So let me get this straight. We wake up in a shortened fetal position in bed. We sit down when we first get up out of bed. Then we go eat our breakfast while being sat down. Then we drive to work sat down, either in the car or on public transport. Then when we get to our jobs, we sit down at a desk for prolonged periods of time. Then when we go to get a drink, we then go get the drink or food from our break and then come back and sit down. Then we go back to work again for another prolonged period of time, to go home to sit down again in the car or public transport. Then get in and eat our tea while we're sat down. Then want to unwind and relax by either reading a book or watching TV, scrolling social media, sat down. Spending time with our spouse or our family while sat down to interact and talk with them. To then go to bed again and adopt a shortened fetal position in bed where we are most comfy. And we wonder why we get tight hips and lower back. Let me answer that question for you. Now there's a common theme here throughout the whole day. When we are sat down in these postures, what we develop is active shortening or adaptive shortening of these problem muscles that we can get that can cause tightness in the hip and the lower back. The two main prevalent ones are the psoas and the iliacus. Now these can both be responsible and contribute to both hip and back tightness. The main thing being that the psoas muscle, which I'll load up some anatomy for you here on the video. The psoas muscle originates from the lumbar vertebrae and extends down to the top of the thigh bone or the femur, while the iliacus muscle joins and originates from the iliac fossa, the inside of the hip bone, and also inserts onto the femur. Together these two muscles form the iliopsoas muscle, which is our primary hip flexor, and also plays a role in stabilising the lumbar spine. When the psoas and iliacus muscles are tight, they cause a forward tilt of the pelvis, otherwise known as an anterior pelvic tilt, which causes excessive arching of the lower back, or what's called hyperlordosis. So when people get that exaggerated curve in the bottom of the spine. This can result in lower back pain, as well as hip pain and stiffness. In addition, tightness in the psoas and the iliacus can contribute to poor posture and limitations in mobility and flexibility. So this is the main reason as to why these structures that we have become adaptively shortened, because we are keeping them in a shortened position. When it comes to us lengthening and then wanting to move them or going to an increased range of motion, they are tight and they don't want to move in that range of motion, hence why we get soreness, we get tightness, and these changes set in gradually over time and the symptoms will progressively get worse. So people will predominantly start with a slight bit of pain, and if they don't rectify the root cause of it, then the issue can greatly increase itself, the prevalence of it. Therefore, it's important to stretch and release the psoas and iliacus muscles on a regular basis, especially if you do lead a sedentary lifestyle, such as if you've got an office or desk-based job and you're sat down a lot throughout the day. Engaging activities like yoga or Pilates are great, because these will help focus on hip opening and core strengthening. Exercises can also help in alleviating some of the hip and back tightness that you may develop in these muscles. Now, it's a good idea to consult a healthcare professional, or a physical therapist to develop your individualised plan for specific hip and back issues, because there are other issues that may be contributing towards it, but these are probably two of the most prevalent that we see in modern time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through some basic simple exercises that you can do, some basic what I call some active stretching, some dynamic stretching, and some assisted myofascial targeted release with such as a foam roller. So here we go. So guys, first tip for helping to release the hip flexor or psoas muscle is a half kneeling stretch that you can do whether at work or at home, but do this regularly. And there's some key pointers to make on this exercise, but this will help to alleviate the tightness from the psoas and iliacus down the front of the hip here to help hopefully relieve that hip tightness that you may suffer from. So adopt a half kneeling posture. I'll get better in the camera frame. So you come up onto one leg. So one leg is at 90, other leg's at 90 as well, but one's on the knee, one on the foot. The side that we're stretching is the leg with the knee resting onto the floor. So what we want to do is take the arm, raise it above our head, and we don't want to excessively lean forward. This is a common mistake we see a lot of people do. it will excessively lean forward, and yes, you may feel it into the hip flexor, but this isn't a specific targeted stretch. This is going to stretch more of the quad. We want to maintain a nice upright posture. Arm of the side that we're stretching comes up over our head, and we do a side bend into it, like a lateral side bend. So if I'm using my right arm, I take it over to the left side, and I can hold this stretch here. Now you can do it as what's known as a passive stretch by holding it here for a duration of time, or you can do it as a dynamic where you could repeat it as repetitions, over, hold for 3 to 4 seconds, come back to the starting position and go back again. Okay, so from the side, I'll show you from the side orientation here. So again, you can see this nice 90-90 posture here. Again, the point I was making is we're not excessively leaning forward. Maintain this nice upright posture, arm up again, and lean over to the side. And again, if you're doing it for the dynamic variation, you can repeat this by slowly going back to the starting position and leaning into the stretch, 3 to 4 seconds, return to the starting position. Do both sides. That's stretch number 1. Let's go into one of the second stretches. So we've shown you one of the stretches, guys. So I'm going to show you a couple of myofascial release techniques with a foam roller to hit 2 other parts of the lower extremity of our body that can also help contribute towards this tightness. One's going to focus on trying to release the tensor fascial lata, or the TFL, and the glute min, and the other one on the vastus lateralis, which is on the side of our quadriceps or our thigh muscle. So we want to take the foam roller. So guys, next step, using a foam roller, we're going to do some myofascial release techniques just on what is the vastus lateralis, what I was speaking of earlier. So take your foam roller, place one leg on it, and the leg that you're not doing it comes in front of you here, just as support. The main point being, on the vastus lateralis runs down the outside of our thigh and our quad here. So what we do is, when we find a tender spot, we just hold on to it and hold on this position between 30 seconds up to 2 minutes. You want to hold this until you get a nice trigger point release before you move to another new spot or you switch legs. Simple thing to do, but this will be quite tender for a number of people, so do stick with it, be patient, but definitely put this in if you've got a foam roller or some sort of, not sort of like a smaller cross ball or a tennis ball, or those people can use like hockey balls. Use something with a bigger surface area, because we want to be able to spread this across the whole of the vastus muscle, not just do a specific small surface area targeted release, because that can be really quite tender. But once I find a tender spot and I've held it, I can then move the roller up or swap. So the same setup for the TFL, leg in front. We now move the foam roller up more onto the side of the hip here to hit the glute min and the tensor fascial lata, or TFL, on the side of the hip. Same setup again, leg in front, pointing in forward, the leg that we're mobilising is underneath, and again, when we find a tender or trigger spot, we hold it again for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Now, it may seem like a long period of time, but for us to get that sort of PNF response of our body releasing the tension, we have to hold it for what seems like a very long or prolonged period of time. This is just going to help you to help release where we find these tight spots. They may not release immediately, they may not release after the first session, but sticking with this and being consistent with it will be the best way to help you release and get more out of what we'd say unlocking your hips and tightness. Now for the lower back, one of the main ones that I like to do is, everyone's seen, I think you see it in yoga, it's like the seal pose. So the aim here is to, from the side, drive the hips to the floor and lean back, arch the back as much as possible, looking up to the ceiling. One of the best ways to do this is to hold it here again for 30 seconds up to 2 minutes. This is also going to help slightly with our hip flexor release, but especially in helping us to lengthen the spine and release tension in our back. Now, one of my favourite techniques, which is for stretching more of the lats, the erector spinae, is the child's pose. Now child's pose in yoga, everyone's seen it, is this type of shape. And the way that we can sort of help to make it more targeted for the lats as well is if you take the foam roller like I have here, and if you trap and squeeze your elbows onto the foam roller, keep this in front of you and sit back into it as if you're trying to push the foam roller away and drive your glutes or your bum in the opposite direction. This helps to lengthen the spine. It's a really nice stretch to hold as well. It's really quite a calming posture. So they do tell people to do this when you feel stress or have anxiety. This is actually really quite a relaxing posture to adopt. And you get that nice stretch in the back. Again, hold for 30 seconds up to 2 minutes. And you can repeat this numerous times a day or for numerous sets. Rotation. So this is for both lumbar and thoracic spine health. So hopefully you'll be able to see how I demonstrate this. So if I lay down, I take one side here, I grab the leg that's come over the top, on top of the knee, and I take my arm and I drop back this way. The camera view is not the best, but I will show it again from another angle from the side. So I'll do it from the side here. So I'm laying down, I'm choosing to take my right leg, bring it up to 90 degrees, bring it down to the floor and grab it with my hand here so that I'm keeping this hand to put pressure on it. I'm taking my right arm and I'm just rotating in the opposite direction to which my knee has gone. So a simple way, guys, to also include some thoracic rotation and lumbar rotation, stretching. Hopefully this will be quite clear to see on the camera. So legs are straight out in front of me. I take one leg and I bend it over to the other side. So bend my right leg and cross my left knee so that my right foot ends up next to my left knee. I then take my left elbow, jam it in the side of my right knee and just rotate this way. So it's like doing some sort of contortionist move. And we hold it for time. And then exactly for the opposite side, left leg, cross over my right knee, use my right elbow to jam, and use my left hand to walk and turn myself away. So left leg over right knee, right elbow jams into my left knee, and I'm twisting this way. Now, you can use a foam roller for myofascial release. I'm not super keen with doing this on the spine, especially the lumbar spine, because I think it can excessively cause an arch in the back and puts under quite a lot of shearing force and tension. But this is personal preference. If someone chooses to do it, that's your choice. I wouldn't be rolling myself aggressively, especially on my back, with something like this. If you've got something probably a bit softer and kind of like a half-cut tennis ball, or like one of these, a half-cut foam roller, something that you can certainly consider. But when it comes to flexibility and mobility work, it's not a rushed process, okay? This is the thing with it. We must make sure that we are investing time and consistency into it. The results come from the long-term investment. So when it comes to trying to alleviate these problems, they will not rectify overnight, but you will notice difference, certainly if you are consistent, and then you will be asking yourself why you didn't put these protocols in from the very start. So I hope this has helped, guys. Let me know in the comments below. If there's anything else you'd like to know, what's tight or what to stretch or mobility routine, please do drop me a message and let's get that sorted for you. Have a lovely day.